Welcome back to the night shift. If you're just joining us, we are getting into the NA portion of our show. We just capped off an incredible championship in Europe with Buff Enjoyers, now again renamed, of course, with their iconic members and getting another win, another feather in their cap. I'm Jake. I'm your host today, and I'll be joined for this NA portion by Mitch and ZP. So guys, welcome to the show. First, let me ask you, Mitch, how are you feeling, man? I know you're always like jet setting around the world. So where do we find you here on this wonderful Deadlock?
No, dude, I have a break in my work schedule, which is kind of why I'm able to be on this show quite a bit right now, bro. So I've been straight chilling. Yeah, I'm off tomorrow morning. I'm off to Europe, but up until this point, I've been chill. Even play a bit of Deadlock as well, and obviously get involved in night shift. So great to be back. I think 3 shows in a row has got to be a record for me. Like I don't have this verified, but I think we're killing the game. Honestly, it's crazy.
It's ZP, man. How you been?
No, it's been good. It's been good. We got a new balance patch. Things have been shaken up once more. Holiday is back in the meta. Also, same with Calico, and seeing how NA adjusts to the changes is going to be pretty interesting. I mean, hey, even sneak previews here. FPS Lounge and the qualifiers, we had a Page sighting. It wasn't on stream, but Page, in theory, is within the calculus of NA teams now. So, you know, it's a small balance patch, but it has some real meaningful changes. So seeing NA's take on these things now is going to be pretty interesting.
I gotta say, I'd like to see Paige maybe buffed back to the point where she does get a little bit more playtime. I think she's an interesting hero. You know, when teams at this level can make her work, it can be pretty exciting to watch, provide some of those big moments. I know you, ZP, are quite the holiday enjoyer. I don't know if you've been experimenting with her on this most recent patch and how you feel about, you know, whether EU's overreacting or whether this really is one of the best characters in the game right now.
I think it's a little bit of both. On one hand, when you look at the numbers, Barrel is actually, okay, if you landed all your barrels pre-patch, it is actually worse until level 3. Because of its scaling. So in theory, her laning is a little bit worse. In actual practice, though, I think the consistency of hitting barrel has gone up so much that you still benefit. And then, of course, you get the better spirit scaling and the better damage once you hit level 3. Yeah, it comes at the cost of displacement. But overall, I think the key thing for Holiday is that her consistency has gone up, and that's made her feel a lot better to play. And then on the spirit scaling, she's still hitting for more damage into the mid to late game. So it got short up. Is it being overvalued as super high pick? We'll have to see. I think that, again, it's a little bit of both. It's a little bit reactionary, but she also did get quite a bit better.
Dude, and I also, like, on that note, excited about Calico because the changes to how, like, the stacking of the melee resist debuff works with gloom bombs, it triggers straight away, and it's now additive stacking as well. So she also got like a decent treatment on some of her numbers. I feel like she's going to be in a pretty nice spot here. Melee resist to play on impact rather than explosion you think it's only a small change, but I think it'd be really quite impactful.
Yeah, it's quite nice because you're going to throw the gloom bombs and then immediately go in for that melee hit. And so, you know, maybe it's going to be a little bit more of a natural synergy to how people are playing the character. A few changes here and there elsewhere, but I agree. I think those have felt like the most impactful, really. In terms of, you know, what has really shifted the meta. We also see, you know, something like Victor not really being picked as much, but Silver, despite the nerfs, still looks top tier. We see Viscous, we see Bebop. It's been a really fun meta to watch with a lot of interesting changes. I think in general, all these changes seem to have hit pretty nicely, right? Without any, you know, major issues in the meta. Like even Holiday doesn't feel so broken that it's unbeatable, right? The responses are still there. Didn't get to see any Warden. It was banned in one of those games in Europe, but there's a possibility, I think, that these changes move the needle. Although for me, these buffs, they don't feel so massive to me, right? They don't feel so game changing. It's like, I guess there's buffs, there's nerfs. You know, it's nothing particularly, but mostly just the ult is a bit better and some of the other skills are a bit worse. So maybe incentives to play a little bit of a different style on Warden.
I also, like, very quickly, I'm going to force Prod to scroll all the way up the top here as well. I kind of like some of the quality of life changes for Apollo. You can now, like, you can parry during flawless advance, which is actually quite nice. And also you can now recast disengaging sigils. So really locks in Apollo being that kind of movement-based character. I did like, you know, getting some stamina refunded, you know, on hit at T3 rather T2 in the past, but I kind of like this. I think it's going to be pretty interesting. Also, you get like a fire rate and bullet velocity increase as well off hitting that sigil. So definitely a couple of interesting directions to take him. And Apollo still promises to be that early to mid-game monster. I just kind of like that we're leaning a bit more into you know, that hyper mobility that he offers, especially to keep him relevant when he falls off a little bit in the later game.
Okay, while we're interjecting with points of note here, before we give it back over to Jake on the hosting end, we can go down the silver. That's right. Bring us down to silver. I need to call out the silver community as far as Reddit goes. Everyone was acting like the world is ending, going, oh my God, silver is dead. I was looking at this and going like, no, it's actually still completely fine, because you look at how silver was being played, even in the previous night shift, there were so many fights where these changes actually would not have impacted what had went on. Yeah, silver isn't going to be able to 1v6 quite as much in, you know, a close fight like mid-boss, and no, you're gonna feel more of a pain than you used to if you accidentally pop wolf form, but silver in general is still a massive threat. Most of the things she was still good at, she's still really, really good at. The world is not ending. Silver is still, as proven by EU, a very top pick, so let's relax. The character is still good.
Yeah, it's good to see Silver still being played after these changes, but it does feel like, okay, maybe the punish is more real, right? Can you burst her in the human form, not let that Lycan curse come out? You know, we saw some success of that in Europe, but of course, North America, there's always going to be a different take, maybe different supports picked, could change the way Silver ends up playing out in this action. Speaking of that action, though, let's take a quick look at the format here for North America. Check out the matchups that we've got going in. It's going to be, of course, our first matchup is Bird with Clock taking on FPS Lounge. It's a best of one in the challenger match, the winner of which is going to go on to face melee creeps in the final. I know any avid viewers of the night shift, you know, they're already going to know this. It's nothing crazy, but just wanted to go back over it for the people. Let's talk about the competitors. That's what people are interested in here. And today, the FPS Lounge roster are who I want to talk about first. This is a team that is quite revamped, and I'm curious if we can go to FPS Lounge. Yeah, and ZP, I'm curious your take on this hybrid new roster.
Well, what I'm curious on too is I have to look back, but there was a little bit different qualifiers because they had Zerbzi playing. I don't know if it was a sub or not, but you know, for FPS Lounge, I think, look, this is a squad that, you know, tasted the top in their original incarnation, and then they've kind of struggled to find their way back. And I think it's a team that overall you have a lot of veteran talent in the NA scene, but it hasn't fully come together in a way that, you know, may have been expected when it was first formed. I mean, their wins that they had in Night Shift was back when they had Erebus on Bebop basically being the ultimate raid boss of the character. They weren't really able to show multiple looks that they were able to win with, and after, you know, multiple disappointing performances, including, you know, falling out in the NS Open, not making the final day, they go, okay, we're gonna like merge with Floorman that was also on rough times. And, you know, ideally, if this roster is better than either the old FPS Lounge or Floorman, this would be the week to see it, because you don't necessarily expect a team to show their full power the first week that they're together as a team. In theory, you know, now they're gonna have more time to actually work together and bring things up to a new level, and we'll have to see if the scrims went well. Pure Content was off on Twitter saying like, yeah, you know, we've really improved. This felt like a good week of practice. We're ready to bring the fight, you know, this week. So we'll just have to see if all that holds true.
Yeah, definitely look to players for me like DMB and Average to have these key performances. I think of them as really strong in that coordinated team environment setting. And then I look to individuals like Lomane and Lefa to have that sort of like spiky, individual, crazy pop-off performance that you may need to drive a victory in this level of competition in Deadlock. So definitely a team to watch. Things changing both in the meta and for their roster. Now, let's take a look at their opponents. Bird with Clock. As you mentioned, Mitch, this is a team that has been grinding it out on the outside, right? Slowly working their way up the ranks. And we were talking about, oh, other teams struggling against them. Maybe other teams are weak. No, I think it's become clear that this is a serious standard bearer, gatekeeper style team here. Arctic has had huge success in the past. Look at like Matt and Strider also being particularly valuable. Looks like a pretty solid team. Is there anybody, Mitch, that you're looking for on this roster to have maybe a good moment in this meta?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at Arctic. I think that, like, you know, this Bird with Clock team is pretty dangerous. And last week, I think they showed us what Shiv and Yamato are still capable of doing. You know, if you remember, like I thought FPS Lounge had a really solid comp, because FPS Lounge like picked the Venator, they got Grey Talon, they got Abrams, like really solid core. But Bird with Clock end up getting some pretty busted picks like the Victor, like the Silver, but they have this Yamato and Shiv look, and frankly, they both look incredible. So Arctic's a standout player for me, someone who, you know, I'm really expecting to have a big impact over the course of this series. And in general, this team, I think, a very well-deserved number 2. I think they dismantled FPS Lounge in that game. It wasn't even a 30-minute game. So I'm expecting them to have taken their own kind of leaps coming into this week.
So I have an update. Before I even get to my birth clock part, I just pinged Pure Content for, you know, not update on the roster situation. I forgot that this was a thing. So Zerbzy was subbing in, and the subbing in was for Lomane on the qualifiers, where Lomane pulled an Ido and broke his PC while trying to upgrade it. He went for the PC upgrade, did something horrifically wrong, and the PC was down for a few days, and now he's good to play today. But what I'm learning here is that FPS Lounge, they offer a bunch of coaching services across multiple games. How about we offer PC building coaching to Deadlock players? Because apparently your best players in Deadlock cannot put together a PC. It is unreal.
I fried a PC once when I was trying to put it together, so I'm not going to judge them.
Like, I'm a glass house liver, man. I buy pre-builds, man. I'm gonna cop to that in front of everybody now, and it's a little embarrassing, yes, but you know what? I stay in my lane. I let people who are incredibly good at building PCs handle that for me. I don't know if I can. I don't know if I'm gonna break like a $5,000 graphics card.
The USB ports on a motherboard look really similar to an on-off button piece. Just don't get them mixed up. Don't do that.
That sounds like a story that we'll see if we can get into that another time. Production, if we've got the 1v1 ready, we can go to it, but I don't know if it in fact is. So we'll have to see. I do think I'm curious to see who ends up being the representatives for these two squads. I feel like those little mini 1v1 storylines are always pretty spicy. Somebody's just in the air, man. They're hiding.
Yeah, bro. Okay.
Who's up on the wall like the whole round?
They're behind Mitch's forehead. It's an unbeatable strategy on our screen. But here we go. FPS Lounge. They're in the blue, and FPS Lounge gets to write the first or second pick. I don't know who A was. I just know in the qualifiers that was the name they were under. Deadlock players and actually staying on their actual player name is an impossible challenge.
It's too easy to change them. I kind of get it.
It's the
as long as they sort it out for us.
The Steam reality. We're gonna need some competitive formalization to change that. But I'm gonna guess it's average for FPS Lounge. I mean, that would make the most sense. TBD. He is one to love the name change, of course, going now by average, not AVG. I'm relearning that one myself. But Bird with Clock with our first pick. Let's see how the bands break down.
What was I thinking?
Pocket. Okay. I just want to surface this idea. We're seeing a ton of Yamato in this region last week. She looked very powerful. Not something necessarily being picked up to the same degree in Europe, but we're reckoning now also with how good Calico and Holiday are looking. And Paradox is also being highly prioritized, especially between these two teams. And even with that reduction of spirit scaling on Colbell, it was really only a very mild change, very Yoshi-esque change to Doorman. He is still taken out in our first rotation.
One thing I will say with Pocket and Doorman being near permaban, I think the reason why FPS Lounge went second pick is I think second pick probably comes at a bit more of a premium, because I think in terms of the overall pick priority, Silver did get hit a little bit, so like the premium of like absolute first pick is a little bit lesser, and getting the next two picks is still pretty high value. Like FPS Lounge, they can come in here and you think about what's on the table right for top picks. They are gonna go with the EU and grab Holiday, but now you can back it up with something like Abrams if you want, or we'll see what they're valuing. I think Bird with Clock actually tends to like really rely on having Billy at times recently, so maybe they steal that away, but I don't think you can go wrong with the early Abrams pick either.
Billy looked amazing in Europe. It looked phenomenal, and they go for it here. I kind of agree with this. I think these urn fights, like Chain Gang forcing the issue immediately in an urn fight, and then Billy being able to scale into like a pretty serious gun carry himself. This character also feels like one that got buffed little by little, and sort of we forget that Billy, when he first dropped, was completely broken, like hard first pick every single game.
I just love that you can work on his gun while also giving yourself that debuff resist that Billy really wants, obviously, with Blood Tribute. That was fun to see in Europe. So see if that's going to be picked up. Obviously, Abrams, gives you that super reliable frontline here. This Bird with Clock composition feels very classic of this era, right? You've got your M1 carry. Venator is the premium option in that slot. So FPS Lounge are going to have to look further afield.
Do they go Silver is the question. Already Silver is getting a little bit of a lower priority than what we saw
already, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's why I'm just wondering. It's like, no, they're going to go with the Calico. So NA is letting Silver drop way more than EU was. So that's probably the most notable regional difference to me as I look at it. But Calico being picked here makes a lot of sense. I think especially giving up Calico Abrams, while we did see it lose today, is still, I think, a really deadly thing to give up. And ideally, you either take it or you ban it. In this case, this side, we're going to take it. We'll save the ban for Paradox.
Yeah, the ult, obviously Calico just got better in general, more damage, more healing, just a more highly impactful ability. We also talked about, of course, how Gloom Bombs are operating right now. So Paradox taken out here. That means that you don't have any of those point and click pick options necessarily anymore. And silver actually means a ban here for Bear with Clock.
Yeah, they don't want to let that combo through. The additional lockdown to assist on Billy and Holiday would have been nice, but it's pretty wild to see it. I mean, I don't think, honestly, since silver has been released, it has gone past the first phase, whether in bans or picks. And FPS Lounge go to the Mirage, which is another carry whose stocks are rising once again rapidly, right? There was a while where Mirage was really not getting played. People were looking other directions.
Well,
but
they don't go solo Mirage is the thing. Like in one of the qualifier games, they went Mirage with Viper Warden. Just think, like, they are stacking the deck with characters that normally would all be position 1 in recent metas, and they're saying we're gonna throw all of them into the blender here. So now, granted, they also ran it with a bit of a support in the page in that one game, so I don't know if you're gonna go like Viper Warden to round this out, but based on their previous drafting, it's very likely that it's going to be average on the Mirage, and then DMB's picking up either the Warden or they're picking up a Viper for Lefa. That's going to go on here. So we'll see what the actual end result is, but this has been more how they've been drafting. Although, okay, the Geist comes in. Interesting.
So we are like doubling in on this late game sustained gun damage, ricochet inhibitor, toxic bullets type approaches.
I do like when Mirage can just go for like all the debuffs, and then somebody else is really going to be the one to deal the main damage. Feels like Mirage suited really well to be almost an annoyance on the carry roll. And they're going to finish things off with the Yamato. So for FPS Lounge, there is not even a whiff of a support in this comp. Like, I'm kind of interested in it because I'm like, well, isn't someone going to build like knockdown for Grey Talon or like a decay for Shiv? It's like, I really don't see the character. Maybe you're right. Maybe it's Calico or Holiday. It almost has to be. But those are not. Typically we see these characters also try to scale. Bird with Clock round things out with the Rem, so I think a much more straightforward choice for them in terms of the tankiness, the survivability, the sustain through team fights. And they set themselves up with a very nice draft. I think a lot rides on Shiv and Infernus. How successful can they actually be against the mobility and the evasiveness of some of these FPS Lounge cores?
So I would challenge that and argue a little bit of this, I think, lies on what is the GT going to do. If you think back to the finals that they had against Melee Creeps, Arctic had 2 really bad back-to-back games on GT. I'm not saying it was all Arctic's fault. Obviously, a lot goes into actually keeping your GT protected, but I mean, I think you could count the total stats between maps. It was like plus 10 over 2 maps. Like that's
I talked them up though.
Total. Yeah,
I talked them up. I'm expecting a turnaround this week. My eyes are on Arctic here to sort of have a moment. Yeah.
And FPS Lounge draft is wild to me. Like, this is pretty oddball draft. It is a new patch, but you know, the EU has convinced me that Rem and Viscous are both really top tier picks, and to see Viscous go completely unpicked, not even considered, I would have thought it would have been a totally sensible final pick for FPS Lounge. A nice cube to save you from the Great Talon Owl, from Shiv and Infernus burning you down with debuffs. I would have thought it would fit well, but they go with the Yamato instead. So we'll have to see if that pays dividends, if they're able to get all these characters scaling into the late game. It is NA, so whether we actually get into the game in the next minute or so is a contested question, as I think ZP can speak to.
Oh, I'll put him on blast here. In fact, this is what we heard from our lead producer here. Quote, "This is an FPSL game, so they are being slow. Even with hydration no longer on the team spirit of simply taking forever to get in the game holds strong." Where, by the way, speaking of hydration and teams coming back into the fray, I feel like we're primed now with enough like free agent NA players to get the return of hydration at some point. Like, hydration is free. Hydration can start a team with that branding once more. You know, the third or fourth or whatever iteration it is of hydration. So you never know in NA what's gonna come down the pipe. But really, I'm just filling for time because players are in the bathroom, as is tradition.
I'd be down for the hydration comeback, man. That's always a fun. That's always going to be an iconic brand in Deadlock, I think, for their year of dominating in our competitions.
Yeah, who we pulling together though? Vegas. Let's get hydration in Vegas, obviously back together. Who else are we working with?
Would Vegas even come back to compete? I feel like Vegas is killing it on the streaming front these days. Like, why change it up? You know,
Ido can do what he can.
So here's what I think. I think in terms, you get hydration, you get Rocker, you get Flick.
Oh, Rocker.
Like, you get Flick back into the scene. Of course, one of the OG Paradox goats if you go back to early competitive, and you're already starting with a reasonable core. I don't know. Maybe you throw in Lord NM for the Ido rival boost. You're up to 4. You know, there's ways to make this work of players that are in and around the scene. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
Hopefully they'll get into games just a little bit quicker. I'm happy, of course, to let the wheels of the bus just roll right over FPS Lounge, because it's becoming a theme. It's becoming a pretty clear theme of them, needing a few minutes to get sorted before we can get into the game with the draft resolved. Speaking of the draft, man, I love what Bird with Clock. I feel like they've got all premiums. No?
It's just a good comp. For me, it just feels like it's very solid. Like Infernus gives you some scaling potential, but it's also really slippery and it's going to be able to nuke down those side lanes. Rema, great support. Oh, I don't know what FPS Lounge are cooking here. I don't know what's going to happen early in the mid game. They got a comp that scales really well with items and souls, but I'm curious to see how they do early, Jake.
They've gone for a heck of a gamble with this draft, guys. We're going to have to see, of course, how it plays out in the server. Remember, this is a best of one. There are no do-overs, no takebacks. It's FPS Lounge versus Bird with Clock here in the NA Challenger match of the night shift number 43. Mitch, ZP, take it away.
Last week, ZP, the comp for FPS Lounge was actually like really solid stock standard, right? They had the Venator, Viscous, Grey Talon, Abrams, and they still lost. They had a comp that I thought on paper looked better. So they're on the bleeding edge here in terms of the new tech. Let's see what FPS Lounge are going to be throwing in. It says Yamato and Mirage in the mid lane. They're going to have the Calico and the Holiday off on the left-hand side, and on the right, that will be the Billy and Lady Geist lane.
Yeah, and I mean, the thing to keep an eye on, of course, is Holiday in the early game, especially once you get level 3 Barrel online. That's where things get pretty ugly. And, if you're playing a Holiday, you're expecting a game where you keep a relatively high tempo and use that to get kills and, keep the other team on the back foot. Between the two teams, in terms of who has the better late game to early game, it's actually kind of interesting, because I think overall FPS Lounge actually scales better into the late game here too. There's a few wrinkles where if like Flaws or Stride got over farmed, that they would be fine, but I still think with Bird with Clock is actually under more early to mid pressure, and a lot of it comes down, can GT get online? And one of the big differences here, Mitch, from the get-go, different player on GT. It's not Arctic on GT this time, it's going to be Matt.
So obviously, early on, we're having a shove back over towards mid. We're going to go to the left-hand side here because something is brewing. Arctic actually, aforementioned, under some pressure. Obviously, Barrel being sort of expecting to pretty darn quickly with the extra charge. So max harassment can be put down by Xeno here. And yeah, Crack Shot still pretty good in lane. Crack Shot, Mystic Shot, I mean, you're hitting fairly hard. There's a decent amount of harass available to you. And obviously with Calico's innate sustain, assisted here, of course, by that first item picked up, you can play like this as much as you like.
Also, in terms of itemization, we'll see how much NA wants to counter itemize. I think whenever you're up against Calico now, mandatory buys, I think you should overinvest in rebuttal. Just even if you're not getting parries off, you still get the melee resist and close combat if it makes sense on your character, just to reduce some of the burst damage you're otherwise going to be dealing with from Calico currently.
So being an absolute nuisance. That is the very satisfying sound of Crack Shot. And yes, rebuttal is to hand right now. You see a bit of guarding pressure here in mid as well as the right lane. That's all there really is to write home about for the time being. But the Bird with Clock being very cagey in this lane. I think they're definitely respecting, potentially get caught out by the Barrel. Also, Calico can trade with you really favorably, kind of out of nowhere, coming forward that leaping slash. With Life Strike as well, melee Life Strike, excuse me, you trade up positively with a sustain in that head-to-head. So, yep, there it is. Not much that Arctic can really do about that. Now the pressure is on. Not quite enough to take down the Infernus, but that's kind of the bread and butter here of this FPS Lounge lane.
I mean, the scary part is that you're getting consistent poke in from the Holiday, where you even go a few patches back when she wasn't getting picked. Her gun got buffed to be way more consistent as far as velocity, and it doesn't do the weird recoil thing that it was doing at one point. And you're less likely to miss barrels, and if you get people down to half HP, that's about the point where Calico says, yeah, it's time to go. So this lane is pretty scary as it is. Quick attempt from Tanner to try and defend the tier 1, instead just getting poked in turn. And yeah, I mean, this is a lane where I think objective survive is where you're going to be happy if you're able to maintain that goal.
I mean, the fact that leaping slash does melee damage really unlocks this build for Calico. Obviously, it allows it to be a real nuisance with any of those melee scaling items. It's just, what are you going to do? Gloom Bomb slash so you just get out-traded in lane? The fact that you can obviously DI backwards with the S key sort of midway through that slash animation so you don't fully commit is kind of wild. So no surprise to see Holiday and Calico pop up now, but in the same lane, they look terrifying.
Other lanes right now, a little bit quiet so far. Again, the part where this game is really going to start exploding in all ways is once ults come online. You know, how Matt is going to control the pace of the game with birds, and also what Xeno's going to be able to do on Holiday. You know, every last cooldown being super important, but things get a little bit skirmishy here between the Geist and the Shiv. Multiple knives landing, though, in DMB here. No, just one.
Yeah, some slice and dice attempts there over towards DMB, but again, it's kind of hard to trade against this one. So Life Siphon is available. Decent bomb connection. Actually, a very reasonable amount of harassment being put down on Gibbs there. You've got to respect Lady Geist, and you definitely don't want to get caught unawares by an off cooldown life drain exchange. They've actually sort of rotated off this lane, though. This is obviously early, just looking to get some neutral pressure now as they've spawned up. They're going to go to work straight away. Buffs, of course, in play, and FPS Lounge really prioritize them. Getting, well, it's like getting low main there a buff.
Also, as far as buffs for GT, doesn't get any better than early casting.
Yeah.
Gibbs on real danger, super low in lane. I think just barely able to get away. Taking a look at the skirmish here and wait into the pressure onto Gibbs. Gibbs, have you got away? No, not at all. Yeah. Still was in danger, and yeah.
I mean, Loman had the one-off cooldown, and of course you got a GT in that lane, so very adept at poking you down if you're overextended. That was just good pressure being put down on Gibbs. We saw some of those essence bombs also, you know, getting 2-for-1 value. Nice connections there in general. So that FPS Lounge right side Guardian still down to half, though. Bear that in mind. Looks like we're going to fight brewing though here. No concussive combustion quite yet, but it looks like Xeno might have bitten off a little bit more than he could chew there. Now, of course, pressure over towards the Calico. Looks like our average was hit by an hour prior to that engagement, but still, you don't want to stick around for this. Chain Gang going to be active here. Lomain back with a vengeance, and Arctic has been snatched up.
Average not having the burn return the shadow there, coming up towards the end of the fight, but that should be the end of the Guardian. And not going to be a super deep dive on the Tanner, who saw the danger approaching and says, yep, you can have it.
Quietly Stride looking pretty strong in this lane. Quite impressive, actually, this Shiv and Rem look. And now, of course, we're at the point where a lot of these key ultimates are in place. So that time, something you definitely have to respect. Stride also getting along pretty nicely in terms of that build as well. So I'd be keeping an eye out for him to be more than relevant later on. Restorative Locket, of course, already there.
Xeno's going in middle, goes for the lasso. Connect.
Ooh, the timing. Curry wasn't quite there. Shadow Transformation, not nearly enough. Matt just with a flyby is able to take Poppers out of the game. Here's an at time confirm on towards Leper, and Gibbs just pops him.
Big difference already just with the change-ups from Bird with Clock. Again, I think, not saying, you know, overall Arctic's a bad player or anything, but in terms of the GT, this comp for Bird with Clock and who's playing what seemingly feels a lot better. Like, there's already a clear difference in what we're seeing for Bird with Clock in this game than the GT comps that were running against melee creeps last week. So, you know, for Bird with Clock, gotta love some of the adjustments coming on through. Still a lot of game left to go.
Colt front already picked up people. Gibbs runs really on the way, even finding some time for the neutrals. Respect this, obviously, as this is a push into FPS Lounge territory, but it's something brewing over towards the mid part of the map. Floss is there, and he's the one that's getting pressured down right now. Matt largely being overlooked, but he does have Owl at the ready. Is there going to be a fight to be had? No, just a tag along back to Matt, and that Guardian is seeing better days.
Elsewhere, looking at the left, Bird with Clock's time to get some damage here onto the left Guardian, and a bit of Flame Dash for good measure.
So annoying. In fairness, so annoying when you're trying to defend your Guardian here. And there's not a whole lot that for now Tanner can actually do. No ultimate available, so no real hard engage potential now. Sinner's also being snapped up out from under his nose. Chase is on though. Floss being looked after here by Xeno. Trying to shut this Venator down early if at all possible. That's a nice little bash down connection there, and everybody got involved. Big dive in towards mid, back behind that Guardian. That gets taken as well. And FPS Lounge starting a trail here though by small number of souls. Important stage and ground build up here in the mid.
One of the interesting things for FPS Lounge is that they do have one of these comps where, while it worked within the qualifiers, not everyone is going to get fed. Like, normally you want a rich Yamato, a rich Mirage, a rich Geist. Well, so far, you take a look at who's getting all the money. The old money is winning with DMB on the Geist, and, you know, left a little bit of a slower game here so far, and I'm just curious how they're going to manage the soul allocation as the game goes on. It's a lot more straightforward for Bird with Clock on who you want to get the early farm, you know, most notably, you're feeding everything to Flaws.
Heads up pickup here for Tanner as well. 9 minutes into the game, a suppressor. Obviously, FPS Lounge with so many gun heroes on that side. Being able to reduce fire rate is going to be pretty important, and it's very easy to spread that debuff because all you need is a bit of spirit damage, which we know Abrams can spread quite nicely. Now the fight, though, to be had for sure. Big collapse here over towards the mid-hand side of the map. That's going to be an owl on towards average. What's the plan supposed to be? Maybe hoping for a little bit of life steal off that slash, but not to be. Concussive Combustion going to come into play, forcing the return to Shadows. Shadow Transformation also going to be active, though, and AVG, even with a bit of healing off that ultimate, not nearly enough. Drops the bag as well. That's Berber Clock now, looking to try and chase a bit further. Gibbs doesn't quite know where to put himself. Poppers gets caught out as well. Not a good look here for FPS Lounge as Berber Clock get themselves a tiny little 5k soul lead off that exchange.
Bit of a brutal engagement, and I think some of these fights going well across the map. I was just knowing the who you want to get farmed. It's funny, you actually have some of the least farm on Flaws right now, but I don't think you have to worry about it. I think the game is going to evolve to a point where Flaws is eventually just going to get solo lane and get far ahead. But, for FPS Lounge, the thing I'm looking at right now and terrified is that a broke Yamato is usually a non-factor in the game. And that may be where Poppers is heading to at the moment. So, that's one thing to take away from the early game. In a lot of cases, it's not even the aggregate so much as who's getting the farm and how's it likely to evolve. But for now, bit of pressure here coming onto low main. Gonna go for the Rising Ram out and yeah, chase them stops.
Yeah, I guess the cold front almost enabled them to catch low lane out, but I do think forcing the Billy back here means you can really pressure this mid-side Guardian now. Berber Clock getting very active across the map. And Zeno just has to give a lot of ground here. Pressure's also on the Yamato now. Lasso in and under the Walker. Tanner largely got perturbed here, but he's going to be stunned up. There's going to be backup, though. Look at the Shiv chasing on in here. And there's just nowhere to go if you're Zeno. Gibbs does get traded out, but overall, this definitely favors Berber Clock, and that's going to be a mid-Guardian now falling. They can actually keep this party going to some degree. Calico's turned up. Average trying to stave them off here, and quietly, DMB starting to get quite powerful here at 11k souls, but Berber Clock have been very active.
Some faith in FPS Lounge, they're going to turn around the 11-minute trophy collector coming out from Xeno. And I mean, to be fair, I've seen players experiment with a little bit more. People look at TC and it's like, oh, you just got to buy this item super early game or it's not worth. I still think you can get some value off of it a little bit later in the game, but it does, necessitate a big shift in who's actually getting the kills so far. In fact, can we get a breakdown on the kill death in this game? Because something tells me it's a bit lopsided at the moment.
Yeah, curious to see people's scores here. Is an earn pickup, though. Easy enough Guardian take here for FPS Lounge. That's conceded by Bird with Clock to allow them to have this left side and mid presence for the time being. And, okay. Not too lopsided, ZP. Unless I missed something.
I see great talent.
No, not as much.
I see Abrams.
All right. There's a convergence here of FPS Lounge players on the right side. Certainly well equipped to defend this earn turn-in. And this early in the game, it is going to be important. Zeno, they're just forcing Tanner away. Always looking for a way on in, though. There's going to be a bit of a fight in mid. Dangerous here for Matt, completely caught out there. Just nowhere to go. This might have opened the door here for a start of this earn turn-in, but Berber Clock don't really appear to be in the best positions for this. Average is going to try and rotate over for the time being now. Some pressure on Stride, of course, who's far too early in the fight for him to build up those rage stacks. And he runs into a very farmed DMB for this stage of the game. Hit by the Essence Bomb as well. Where's the help supposed to be here for the Shiv? Question is, well, there might not be any. Zeno, though, taken down. There goes DMB. Tanner and Floss finally touched down in this fight, and Stride stayed alive and maintained that position for more than long enough. Arctic at 14k soul swoops on in for the coup de grace, and that's an earn turn in for Berber Clock.
Fighting through Flame Dash on Earn is incredibly painful. I mean, upside here for FPS Lounge, able to get the kill on the Gibbs towards the end, but I'm kind of curious on damage done right now. And then Arctic just went on a massive uptick from that fight alone. Just, again, it feels bad where it's like you have a King of the Hill mechanic. It's like, yeah, keep fighting in here. Oh, the floor is lava at the moment.
FPS Lounge. Again, try and stay relatively in step in terms of this soul deficit to get a 13 minutes into the game. That's pretty intense. We do have Shadow Transformation, Soul Exchange, both ready and waiting here for FPS Lounge. We've definitely shifted into more of a duck back and get your own neutrals phase of the game, with the exception of this left-hand side of the map. A lot of harass here with that Siphon. And DMB looking for fights where he can get him, and you can kind of understand why. However, Rem is going to be here to keep Stride fighting fit for the most part. He's going to be the cold front activated now. Looks like they might be looking for a fight. You've got to be aware, of course, of that soul exchange on this guy. And so no full commit here for Stride, but here comes Xeno. This is now getting a little bit more dangerous. They've kind of split themselves. FPS Lounge, DMB low, hoping for a good soul exchange, but they can never get it off. What? Maybe bled down. It's unclear. No ability to use that ultimate, though. That's punishing. Ow! Connecting as well onto Xeno. Unclear if there's going to be a plus 10 opportunity here, but everybody from FPS Lounge is being chased down. And it looks like Xeno is just going to be able to extract themselves.
I feel like this keeps happening in this game where FPS Lounge is going for these skirmishes, and Bird with Clock, there's enough between them in terms of map presence where they're able to rotate in and, you know, turn what could be a kill against them into something that works in their favor. Of course, like, Guys for Shiv always gets a little bit dicey where you're going for soul exchange, but you also have to give enough respect to Killing Blow that you don't get crushed by it. As quick little snatch and grab from Poppers on the buff.
Sometimes there's the issue as well. You're just not in range. Sometimes you just like die. You just can't quite get close enough, out of stamina or what have you. Still a bit unfortunate though. FPS Lounge looked like they were in a powerful position, but at least Xeno was able to get away. Stride though, with a casting buff in hand, also Torment Pulse now entering the inventory. So already becoming quite a nuisance to be close to. That would have been a ridiculous line. Oh my goodness! That's a low flying out, folks. Xeno just gets blown up there. Point blank, Matt able to connect with them though. Still going to respect this shadow transformation Yamato. Parry going to be timed out though, and it's another ill-fated exchange for FPS Lounge in mid, ZP.
I don't know if we have it, but we need the replay from the GT point of view stat there because that was absurd. It opened with Matt getting hit by Lasso. Xeno wanted that fight, and post Lasso, just instant Bird blows up Xeno midair and then gets a fall through on the kill immediately thereafter. I mean, that could not have gone worse for a fight that started out the GT himself getting grabbed.
And look at the map control now. Berber Clock in a position to really snatch up some of FPS Lounge's neutral creeps. They want to fight for it though. It feels like they realize they've got a local player advantage here. Arctic, obviously on the other side of the map here, sort of not looking to intervene, but a lot of pings happening there. There's a drift across though for Matt. Stride in a bit of trouble here. Looks like they got out alive though.
Man, oh man. Back in middle we go. More action going on in Poppers. I mean, not really built for this fight. Low HP, and here comes the Bird taking cover.
Oh, plus 10!
Ooh. Brutal.
Bro's plus 30. Let's go.
Yeah, plus 30 at 16 minutes. I mean, it's respectable. It's not the highest we've seen. I think the record is still Cosmetical putting down plus 70 at this point in the game the other day. But, you know, for FPS Lounge, this is scary. I mean, things are starting to get a bit out of hand. If you get a solo kill on the Ven, it would be huge. But you're going to get gut shot right into the back. And you have soul exchange, but you don't really want more of this fight if you're DMB.
No, it had to be your Dispel Magic used there and the slip away for DMB. Nothing really coming up Millhouse for FPS Lounge at the moment. They've not really been able to take any good engagements either. Chase down Mazzino, not a lot of souls on them, but still those barrels hit very, very hard. And I think DMB's got to be a little bit careful. Obviously, soul exchange is big as a nap time, though, connecting on towards Xeno. The follow-up is plentiful. Big burn damage here on this holiday. And Xeno is going to try and skitter away as quick as humanly possible. He's going to run headlong into the Grey Talon. Matt adds another feather to the cap, and that Owl's off cooldown.
Owl good to go, and Bird with Clock for now. Trying to get some push onto the left. Flaws, though, under the gun. Calico, hot pursuit, lower HP. Ven still trying to back it up, and here comes the Bird. Is it going to hit the Calico in time to save? Over, and it hits, but it's not enough for the save.
Yeah, DMB's there to steal that kill away from average, and no follow-up means that the Calico doesn't even get traded there. So a bit of a power play moment here for FPS Lounge. They've got Floss and Stride off the map. But it's a question of what they're able to do with it. They've got to defend here in mid. They've got the urn to hand, but there isn't a lot of map control in this left side lane for that, safe landing.
Still, 10K difference between the two teams. Still scenarios for FPS Lounge to bring this game back. Things are looking good for them. DMB good on farm. Leffa good on farm. And arguably, at this point, they've kind of had a bit of an underperformance, I think, where they haven't gotten as much from the holiday as they would like, but that can all change with a good lasso or two. I mean, we're still at the point where holiday still has a pretty big impact on the game. For now, though, this urn just going to be swiftly delivered.
Veil Walkers. That's messed up. Holy.
Yeah.
Damn,
you go
free?
car.
Okay, bro. Free Look at how the soul difference has shifted out. But, of course, there's going to be Burbage Clock looking over towards this mid-boss. Chain Gang, that's a big connection there, but who's going to be in play to help Low Main out? They've got some great sustain amidst all of this, though, and there's some pressure. Lasso going to be used there on the point. It's going to be Strider and Arctic, though, taking some region credits. Poppers at least gets one for their troubles now, but that fire rate reduction of the inhibitor is going to be a little bit annoying to play into against this Abrams. Bloz, Matt, Poppers all back in the fight. No rejuve credits anymore to speak of, and this is where FPS Lounge should shine, CP. They really want to fight in these enclosed areas. Merman looking nice and healthy here. Stride going to be flattened, and Burbage Clock don't have any more staying power. They'll keep that small soul lead after even giving up the urn, but that's it.
I mean, look, in terms of making that happen, all eyes got to be on Low Main, where just a perfectly timed Chain Gang pulls everyone off the point and creates enough disruption for the rest of FPS Lounge to get over their post-earn. And in the end, I mean, it's a bit of a wash between both teams, but I would say you like FPS Lounge's position, given the fact that it could have been way, way worse, and they still reap most events of the urn. But look at that.
Oh.
The pull coming in from Low Main to open things up and create the opportunity for some parries, steal one rejuve away, and even the bird coming in from Mad, it's not enough for Bird with Clock to walk away from that fight definitively.
And I think you really saw the 40% bullet and spirit resist part of Chain Gang go to work there. Low Main took 0 damage in the aftermath of that, was able just to bash them down immediately. Kind of sick. FPS Lounge have a nutty sort of team fighting composition. Clear to see that. Now, Poppers also has that Torment Pulse. So, Sticky Yamato, broke as she may be, I think is still going to be a bit of a nuisance getting later into the game. Flaws obviously needs to get mega fed. We're not quite at that 30k soul threshold here. So, FPS Lounge still looking fairly dangerous. I like that little owl turnaround here. And we're going to see the Great Talon peel themselves away. AVG doesn't fancy the fight even with that survival buff.
I think you have to be a little bit worried for Bird with Clock here, in the sense that a lot of the tempo advantage that they had is kind of fallen by the wayside. And even with Matt having a decent game, you look at how some of the last few fights have gone down and, the results of some decisions. FPS Lounge is really getting back into it. And, as talked about in the beginning, I think it's a small advantage, but I do think FPS Lounge has a better comp the later this game goes. So those Xenos in all sorts of danger. You come with a Veil Walker, and now you're looking for the exit. But hey, your Holiday, you're well equipped to make quick escapes.
Floss is just not in position to really get involved. They are obviously still stuck in that sort of heavy farming phase of the game. So don't be asking for too much from them for the time being. I did just see the Scourge picked up by the Chief, if I'm not mistaken. We'll get there, though, in just a moment. Tanky as Low Main is, do need to be a little bit careful here. There's a Great Talon also chasing it. The 3-on-1 in mid, and I feel like they've just put themselves in a bit of a weaker spot. The Owl is coming! And it's another +10 for Matt. Low Main gets caught out. There's still a fight to be had. Matt eventually traded by Xeno. The rest of Burbage Clock, though, are grouped up, happy to fight if push comes to shove. But there's a Walker being chewed up here. FPS Lounge getting that map pressure on the right-hand side.
What era is this going on right now within this game? We just continually see a cowboy tying up Great Talon repeatedly. Every single game or every single fight is what's going on. I mean, it's happened multiple times where Xeno's objective going on right now is simply to go to the back line, look for GT constantly. And in this case, even though Matt was able to get the kill on the Owl, it still got the kill towards the end and, remove some of the sting from what otherwise would have been a good pick. Still get to walk away at the +10, though, I suppose.
Yep. Some consolation, but the balance of power in terms of soul total has shifted drastically with that Walker pickup on the right. FPS Lounge have now got themselves into the lead. And F has been studiously farming that right side lane for so much of this game. Flaws there. Wants to shove things in. Does take note, of course, of 3 FPS Lounge players and expects probably like a rotation in from Poppers or someone similar. Chase here on mid. Once again, Low Main has perhaps dangled the red cape a little too close to Burbage Clock, but he'll be able to get away and buy some time for FPS Lounge to respond. It's a mid-present setup here.
Let's go yellow.
Things getting real close. 30 seconds before next urn spawn. Lasso up. Gonna connect. If you get Flaws, it would be huge. One of the best pickups you can get against Bird Clock. But instead, the Urn's Omini turns the tables. Xeno, the master of dropping the lasso, and again, the boom dropped on him in turn. Second time this game.
They really need Stride to be here, though. Tanner was essentially alone there. Good shoulder charge to break up the lasso, but I don't feel like the Shiv is really here when they need to be. Average here, of course, in Ava form, trying to quickly skitter on away. The chaser is on, though, and it's a full bar of rage built up. Average eventually caught out. Was that another owl, perhaps from Matt? No, on cooldown still, but he'll take that kill all the same. Stride is in strong form right now. Nap time set up there, but unclear if there's any connection.
That was now. That's another plus 10. It just it comes off. It just goes real fast. So yeah, Matt plus another 10. I think he must be at like plus 50 or plus 60 now. Continuing to stack up, but Lomain gonna pick up the walker. FPS Lounge working with a bit of advantage economically, as now is there going to be an intercept on the Stride. Certainly not looking to let this urn go for free. And overall, I think the opening there, even though Xeno got clapped, probably worth it. Like, you would sacrifice your holiday for the Ven at this point any day of the week. So worthy sacrifice, even if it did get a little bit messy towards the end.
I agree. I think Average has been where he needs to be for so much of this game. Overclock, though, insisting upon this urn turn, and there is another good neutral objective across the map to pull FPS Lounge away, so there's going to be a fight. Remember, FPS Lounge, their comp is really nice up close. Scourge active, you can see Billy diving in, though, but again, Lomain is just a little bit out of step with the rest of FPS Lounge. And Leffa didn't have Traveler available, so he is hot-footing it across the map, but he just might not be there in time. No Shadow Transformation up for Poppers as well. A power drop for FPS Lounge is utterly exploited by Berwick Clock. Average is out of the game. Soul Urn picked up by Berwick Clock, and guess what? There's a Walker waiting in this right side lane.
Urn plus 4 kills plus Walker. The only saving grace is that the timing is such that it won't be a mid-boss, but Bird with Clock immediately back in the game, evened up, and actually a little bit ahead by the end of it. Now, maybe they get a Walker trade out of it. It's looking pretty good for Leffa. And, you know, you like solo Walker gold as Mirage. By the way, Mitch, I gotta note, we got the Overwatch special there. That was basically equivalent of a control map where the first person to touch, the only person that can't touch, is gonna get sacrificed to keep the fight going. And that's pretty much what happened to Lomain there, because for Lomain, it was either sacrifice or lose your urn outright, and this side, we're gonna make the attempt at the sacrifice.
Yeah, dead right. Less of being caught out, more of just needing to throw himself at the situation. But FPS Lounge is still without a couple of their players now, and of course, it's a pretty elementary move over towards this mid-boss. This one might be far less contested, even though Lomain does try and step in. Leffa, rather, it was. Also with a Scourge to hand, trying to dust devil his way through here. The mid-boss, though, has been picked off. Can Leffa get away with this now? That solo player sort of sticking around. No, here's Rejuve's going over to Berber Clock. There's still a fight to be had, though. Again, Billy now is here. Scourge active, bash down in play. Slowing Hex is traded out here. And a one-player chain gang catching on to Tanner is fine, but there's no way Leffa's going to be walking out of this one alive. And there's still much more to be done. Arctic here, flame dash on through, maybe just trying to be set up for the next target. And I don't think, yeah, Shadow Transformation would have helped Poppers much here anyway. They are very low. Stride did go down. Only one Rejuve credit left here for Berwick Clock, but that should be more than enough as FPS Lounge, imagine, have to give up this fight. No soul exchange for DMB. That health is their real health. And Arctic needs to be careful. It's a very fed Lady Geist and doesn't want to try and take that fight solo, but the cavalry arrive and DMB finally is pulled down.
We need the soul graph stacked, because there's been a narrative going around in Deadlock saying comebacks are not a thing. You go down 10, 15K, game is over. Well, look at this game and how back and forth things have been. But it has been, Mitch, a relatively tragic last 3 minutes for FPS Lounge. They went from being the team ahead, they go to a ill-fated urn contest. The spawn timers actually do end up being long enough that they're not able to do a good mid-boss contest, even with the quad Dust Devils, just because they don't have enough people up. And a game that they were in the driver's seat on, now they're the ones falling behind.
Power Spike, though, for the Abrams as well, ZP. Phantom Strike into the infantry for Tanner. It's going to be now a simple situation to try and connect those shoulder charges. And I guess go for the holiday early. There's not a lot of great targets here. Leffa looking dangerous. You notice, like, in that last fight, because FPS Lounge again had to throw themselves at an objective without proper setup just to try and contest it, they couldn't really get the Geist and the Mirage in positions to kind of do what they're supposed to do and put out that sustained damage safely. That's a plus 10 again for Matt. 35K on this Grey Talon. You can see just why he's so prioritized.
Okay, I need to see two things. One, we need the view of Matt so we can look at the stacks. And two, I need to see the golden statue buff so we get an idea of what the permanent advantage in the game is with all the swings, because there could be a little bit more to look at there.
Okay.
And overall, we're pretty even across the board, really.
Let's try getting chain ganged for what? Defend to this Walker, I guess. Oh my goodness, what a stun there, of course. Venom Strike definitely assists with stuff like that, but that one was straight natty. Nicely done by Tanner. Here comes a slam straight into the middle of the fight. Stride does eventually get taken down, but looks like he might have done his job. Shadow Transformation in play for Poppers, but he's trying to use most of that duration just to try and get away alive. Wall jump attempts here, and here's another owl. Fire him up. It's plus 70 on that, and Poppers just vaporizes under that damage.
Yeah, the Owls have started carrying nuclear ordnance in this game. Plus 80 on Matt. That is an obscene amount of spirit, and this is why you pick GT. A character that oftentimes can be a little bit more feast or famine, but this is the feast. And Matt, I mean, look, people make jokes about Rem, being the greediest character in the game. What do you say to a GT that has 80 spirit worth of contribution here, picks up the Boundless and the Spirit Burn? Getting hit by an owl at this point is going to chunk half the cast in FPS Lounge to 50% or more in one bird. In some cases, I mean, it's not quite a one-shot, but it's getting there for some of the characters less invested in the green.
I mean, no, if my great talent is pulling up like this in the game with 80 stacks, I am giving him the fattest dowry. He's getting like 3 cows for marrying my daughter, no doubt. I straight up, like, I'm giving everything. This is pretty insane. 80 spirit, is just absurd. And this guy's hitting like an absolute truck. Hero damage here, telling much of the story. FPS Lounge, obviously across the board, kind of just broadly very solid. But you've got the soul allocation, you've got the stacks on the exact right play in this GT. Finally in NA, GT has not had great success in DLNS over the last few weeks, but now turning up in a big way.
I mean, this is why you pick GT. And also, I mean, I have to wonder if FPS Lounge was aware of the threat here. Again, Arctic's GT did not look super amazing last week, but changing up who's playing it, changing up some of the comp around it, not to throw too much shit on Arctic because there's a lot of factors that go into it, but they found a formula that makes the GT shine, which was just not how Bird with Clock was playing last week. Still?
There's a lot of jockeying for position here. The map control's not good for Berber Clock on this left side. The push is definitely favoring FPS Lounge, who've massaged this macro situation to favor them if it came to an earn fight.
Yeah, and I mean, for Berber the Clock, on the upside, you have a GT that's dropping nukes. On the downside, the engagement FPS Lounge is looking for, if they can get on Matt early, it would be completely game-changing. But they're deciding to start the earn here and now, and what could be the final fight.
Oh, they found him!
GT immediately! Matt is caught!
That is huge. Exactly what the doctor ordered. Well, he wouldn't be a good doctor if he was asking for that, but either way, they got rid of the Grey Tail, and that is huge. Now, you might feel like you've got a real crack at this fight. In the middle of things, right where he needs to be is low main right now. Still, Stride the one taking most of the punishment here. Where's the damage supposed to come from on the Berber Clock side right now? Popper's happy to soak it up as well. There's a leaping slash there from Average. Dangerous here. FPS Lounge, all of their players ready to throw down here. Naptime going to be catching on to Poppers, but Arctic got picked off. And FPS Lounge get the earn turn in. They are skirting around this great talent issue perfectly. And look at the respawn timers right now for Berber Clock. That is brutal. This is an easy transition into mid-boss.
Look, we laid out the game plan. You got to get on the GT. They get on the GT. It's a full team wipe into what's going to be mid-boss. FPS Lounge back in the game. And once more, can we get the soul graph? Because this has been remarkable just how back and forth this game has been. You rarely see this, even at the pro levels of play. But man, oh man.
Sine wave, bro.
Yeah.
Holy. I don't know if we were able to catch that, but how did they get that GT? That is ridiculous. Berber Clock were really posturing very heavily, ZP, to try and get a good setup for that fight. But look at this, they're losing a shrine. Mid-boss being taken. Average just getting in here and snatching up everything.
Yeah, it's the worst of all worlds, where if you get full wiped like this, you not only give up mid-boss, you give up key assets in your base, and they're even delaying the rejuve here. So low main's gonna go back up to full HP, and you can wait, so you get a little bit more time on the rejuve. It's not quite the old days where you grab 2 and then wait for the last hit, but when you know no one else can possibly be there, you got no reason to rushing the rejuve. Get a little bit of extra time for what could be a game-ending push coming up.
The game only gets more and more volatile from this point onward. And you better believe, next fight, both teams are going to have all of those relevant ultimates online. Now I can see just how crucial Matt is for the overall game plan of Berber Clock. Can he stay out of arm's reach here? What? Yeah, 11k on average. Gonna be looking forward to seeing how.
Wait, the production is just destroying average by bringing this up. I didn't know we had this graph. There's very few reasons why you'd want to be holding on to.
Oh my god! He does not care. Look at the bag. 1600 unsecured. I'll spend through that for the love of God. Yes. Okay. Scourge picked up. Oh my god. Triple Scourge.
Okay.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Oh, ZP the Transcendent as well. You've got Polar Blast. You got that Scourge cooldown you can throw back down. Yeah, this is that's messed up, bro. Holy Tank Buster as well. I respect that.
Man, oh man. Well, Reverb being picked up for FPS Lounge, and yeah, I mean, I guess what really happened, there's a lot of that money came from the last fight, and it's just like, well, I got no reason to spend right now. We're not
fighting. A goated stat.
Yeah.
Good on your production. So, as a result of this, FPS Lounge, of course, especially with the reju buffs, they've been able to work the entire map. They're now turning that fight, from what was a 10 to 15k soul swing into so much more than that on virtue of all of these neutrals that are going to get picked up here. I mean, look at the bag that is being carried right now by average. So one way to get rid of it is to spend it. Don't know if you can, though.
I think the problem for a bird with clock is that their window is likely over. I think that pick on the mat, I called at the time saying it's like that could be the last, real fight. And I think it might have been, because you look at the aftermath here, you're down 30k, and you're down 30k against the comp that, frankly, I think fights the end game better than you, or at least does on paper. It gets a little bit weird with the GT having this many stacks to where I think it's more even than it otherwise would be. But that's only if Matt is able to stay alive. Bird with Clock, obviously #1 priority into the next fight, which is still going to be difficult because Rejuve is... This guy right here on your screen needs to stay alive. Cannot be the person going down first under any circumstances.
All right. Defending the base. Not an easy prospect here. Shoulder charge does connect onto the Holiday, but I think Xeno's pretty happy just trying to skip, hop, and jump around this fight. Gonna pull out for the time being now and let some of the teammates go to work. Here's DMB. Got that leech active, of course, Spell Slinger. This is exactly where you want to be as guys. 4.4k health, and yes, FPS Lounge off one pick. The way they approached their fight against Matt was absolutely sublime. Now they're in a position to clean things up pretty well. Nap time catches on to 2 from FPS Lounge. Popper's staying nice and tucked here, but diving on towards Tanner when it needs to be done. Xeno, of course, is just going to get reborn back into the fight, as is Average. You can afford to take some risks here now, but you still got to respect that damage output potential of the Venator. Floss is at 40k souls, but really can't stay alive. I don't know about you, ZP, but that was an absolute whiplash of a game as FPS Lounge get themselves into the money match this time around.
Truly a clash of titans. FPS Lounge barely scraping it out, but they had to work for it, man. It went back and forth, came down to some very minor individual moments. Definitely we have a strong battle in North America for that secondary slot, and maybe even the first slot. Of course, FPS Lounge, the winner here, they are going to go on to face Melee Creep, still with the shot at winning it all here in NA.
Man, I gotta say, I mean, this match in review, it is rare to get a match that goes back and forth this way, but I also think it's kind of a testament to the swinginess of GT as a character. You think about how that last Earn fight broke down. Overall, Bird of the Clock was in a really advantageous position, so long as Matt wasn't the first to die. But GT is one of the characters in the game where he's eminently diveable, and well, also dieable in this case too, I suppose. But yeah, I mean, you have the Billy as a lockdown threat, you have the Holiday as a lockdown threat. You only need one of the two of them to get the jump onto Matt. And in this case, I mean, he dies in that fight without putting out any damage, and what a different game you have. But until that point, it was kind of the match show where repeatedly Bird with Clock was just getting high-tier owls, high-tier power shots, and Matt, would get jumped on it. You have stuff like this. That fight started out with him getting lassoed, and he still turned the tables.
I thought that the point-blank owl was kind of based there. We did get to see some of the power of great talent, but it's so clear that Bird with Clock invested very heavily in getting Matt in position to take the game over, whereas Floss needed some time. By the time I think the Venator is really starting to become relevant, you kind of already shut out of the game. I thought Arctic had great, map-wide pressure in general. Tanner clutch with some of those charges here, but FPS Lounge have a cob that, boy, if you let them get to that late game, they are devastating. I thought that Lomain super active, really just putting his body on the line just to make sure some of those objectives are adequately contested. I thought, obviously, having that Scourge is really nice. I just think, Billy very powerful right now. The chain gang to interrupt the mid boss. FPS Lounge did the right things to keep themselves in the game until they found that golden opportunity. And that's a quality I think that goes overlooked too much in this game.
That's well put, Mitch. You know, the ability to just stick into a potentially a difficult game, even when it's turning against you, right? To find those chances. I feel like Deadlock, there's always the chance to come back. I mean, the game's built for it, but you've got to be able to find those opportunities. You got to know when to throw caution to the wind and just dive on that main threat. As we saw, they were able to pick off Matt in what will become kind of the decisive earn challenge of the match. Still, it's going to be an interesting one. Obviously, melee creeps waiting in that money match are an even more fearsome foe, especially with some of the roster changes they've made as of late. They look to be in top form. So FPS Lounge, they're going to need to bring everything into this next match if they want to stay alive and continue their winning ways so far today. They've definitely shown that they can do it, though, right? They've faced adversity already. And here, take a look at some of the stats.
Yeah, I mean, the stats, they're real interesting. And of course, a little bit sad as a Bird with Clock fan, where you could see even from the stats, Matt was pumping damage throughout the entire game. I think one of the stats that's kind of interesting to me, even though it felt like a rougher game for Xeno, where Xeno was not getting away cleanly on a lot of the lassos. In fact, many of them got turned the other way around, and it felt like Xeno was stuck in the role of trading. A 1-9 Holiday still put down nearly 40k damage, which is probably a testament to some of the power of barrel consistency and the spirit scaling being brought up to par. So I don't know. I feel like if you're having this impact on the hero in a 1-9 game, Holiday's probably pretty deserving of her top pick status after seeing this.
Look, I'm not a like super prolific Mirage player, but Leffa's build, I don't know if this is sort of common, but bro is echo sharding Dust Devils and just spreading Scourge in the fire with escalating explosion and using E-shift. What is this, bro? Where are the gun items? Bro does not have any. It's like QSR and a Mystic Shot. That's crazy.
Well, I think a lot of it is that you get a lot of damage from Jin's Mark off spirit scaling to begin with, but we saw it in the mid-boss contest where FPS Lounge made it a really big priority that they wanted good mid-boss contest options. You get Chain Gang, you get Quad Dust Devil, you have Yamato to go in, and you Shao Transformation to get priority for Rejuve. I think for FPS Lounge, they definitely wanted to be able to play mid-boss to high degree of proficiency, not deficiency, and Echo Shard Echo Shard Mirage definitely helps in that.
And this was a draft we sort of talked about. They needed to do something a little different here because essentially they're all scalers, right? There's no, I guess Holiday's the support, but really very few as by way of active spirit catch items bought it all in this game. So maybe Leffa recognized there's not going to be necessarily the space to be the pure, late game carry. You might have to get down and dirty yourself, get into the front line. But of course, who did that better than our MVP of the series, which we can show now for FPS Lounge? It has to be Lomain. Lomain for me has been such a fun player to watch. Whatever he brings out, the Billy was not one that I had on my bingo card for him, but I'm not surprised to see that he has another big game here, basically on any hero he chooses to bring out.
Yeah, this is obviously this is just great gameplay, obviously from someone we know who could really take a game over themselves. Just great pressure early. I thought this lane was really quite oppressive. So it looked good there, and this is obviously the mid-boss fight where all the Reju credits are forced out, and that's off the back of Lomain starting with a big 4 fire play and maybe Chain Gang, and then a really nice conversion here. This kept FPS Lounge well and truly in the game because they also got an earn off that exchange. So this catch was everything. Beautifully done, and you can see that Lomain was a huge component of that game-winning play.
For me, there was 2 really key moments for Lomain beyond just generally good lane play. It was the play we just witnessed where he was part of the catch on the mat, which was absolutely necessary for FPS Lounge to win this fight. And it was also when FPS Lounge, they got Earn, and Bird with Clock, they go mid-boss. And FPS Lounge is able to go in, and the Chain Gang buys just enough time to get the rest of FPS Lounge in to make that fight basically a wash rather than a full-on advantage of Bird with Clock. Those 2 plays for Lomain, really, really critical to keeping FPS Lounge in the game and eventually winning the game.
Yeah, Lomain's always going to be one of those players to watch. That's why he takes home MVP off the back of a huge comeback performance here in the Challenger match over Bird with Clock. Of course, next up is going to be their battle against melee creeps. I'll take a quick look at the bracket here. That'll be a best of 3 here in the finals. Night shift number 43. Gentlemen, can you believe it? 43.
All these 43 night shifts I've been a part of, Jake, honestly, this is definitely one of them. It's been quite a run. You know, I feel like taking a victory lap at this point, honestly. But.
We both sort of take a drink of water, and at the same time, we both almost spit it out on camera.
Hey, you guys, you brought, like, you backed up the Brinks truck for me. Like, what can I say, bro? I mean, like, you guys deserve to have me here. Like, this is crazy, but I mean, dude, I really enjoyed that game. I think it was fun. I thought we saw some like alternate build paths taken by some heroes, and we got to see why Holiday and Calico are so like prioritized right now. So I'm really loving this. I don't think a lot of pressure got put on melee creeps last week. Really feel like they were pretty strong in both those games. I'm hoping FPS Lounge are the ones that can step up and really put some pressure on them. Maybe give us a 3-game series. Who knows?
I think everybody in the chat would agree, right? A contested series, what people want. Sorry, ZP, go ahead.
No, that's pretty much it. I was just going to glaze the game where, I mean, look, it was back and forth. I think this is one of those games where even though Bird with Clock lost, I think you look back at and you go, hey, we still played really good. Just, tip your hat to the pick on Matt at the end. But, there's some games in Deadlock where you look at and you go, wow, I feel bad about this. I don't think either team should feel bad about their performance this game. I mean, what more can you ask for? I think both teams had great moments.
Good Deadlock.
And, unfortunately for Bird with Clock, their run today ends a little bit early.
Always the bridesmaid, seemingly never the bride for this squad. Maybe someday they'll have their day in the sun, but it won't be today. Of course, up next, after a short break, it'll be Melee Creeps trying to defend that champion spot against an insurgent FPS Lounge off of the rebuild. Excited to see Melee Creeps with some potentially new players in the roster, some maybe fan favorites for the show. All of that and more is coming at you right after a short break. So grab a drink of water, be back in your seats in a few minutes, and we will get on with, of course, the championship of NA.